Hello?
Hey, it's Jeremy calling.
Hi!
How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Good, thanks.
Thank you so much for doing this. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, no problem.
So, how are things with everything happening?
Um, Everything's kind of taken like a big halt. I know everyone's in the same boat right now. Tours are being canceled, shows are being canceled. So being freelance right now kind of sucks. We're all in a spot right now where we have no income, and I know it's not just freelance in the music industry, but it sucks just watching everything disappear that you had planned for 2, 3 months down the road. So
No.
it's not great right now, but we're hoping, once we get through all this, everyone's really going to be missing shows and want to get back out there, and all the bands are going to want to be on the road. So we're hoping it picks back up.
No, yeah, I definitely understand. It's kind of like things that you had planned for so long are kind of like not happening. And
Yeah,
it's crazy.
yeah, exactly. And it sucks because, like, obviously I can't take pictures from my house. Well, I mean, I can. I can take pictures of, like, my dog or something. But that's not making me any money, and that's not helping me, pay rent or pay my bills or anything else, right? So yeah, we're all just in a tough spot right now. Like I said, I know I'm not the only one. I know there's a lot of people in the same spot right now. So
yeah, it's kind of why, even though school's technically shut, I really wanted to continue doing these interviews because, like, we can help in any way possible, even if it's just like getting word out there and throwing up, like,
exactly.
yeah.
And that's I see a lot of people trying to do that right now, whether it's just sharing like, a print shop link or sharing photographers' pages or bands' pages, online merch stores, anything people can do right now to try and help. I see everyone's kind of banding together and doing that, which is really great to see.
Okay, so I do have some questions for you. You're the first band photographer I've ever interviewed. I saw your photos, and so I thought your
Okay,
shots were really, really good.
thank you.
Um, what made you interested in photography specifically?
So I've always had an interest in photography, not necessarily band photography, just when we were at family gatherings, I'd be the one taking the picture because I like doing it, that sort of thing. Um, and then I was in a band 4 or 5 years ago now, and we were on tour with the band I now do all the photos for, Rival Town. They originally are from Thunder Bay, so they were coming down through Ontario, down into southern Ontario where I am, and they asked my band to jump on a couple shows with them, so we did that. And 5, 6 months after that, I left the band, and they were doing another full Ontario run, and they asked if I want to come hang out, do some merch on that tour. I said, yeah, sure. You mind if I bring my camera? Just because. They're like, yeah, of course. So it started then with the band pictures specifically. Didn't really expect it to kind of take off the way it did.
Mm-hmm.
It just kind of happened because the next tour they did, they're like, hey, come back, take more pictures. I'm like, oh, seriously? You really like them? They're like, yeah, they're great. I'm like, oh, okay. So I went from there. I did 2 or 3 tours with them before other bands started reaching out to me. Hey, we're playing Hamilton. Can you come shoot us? We're in Toronto. Can you come shoot us here? I'm like, oh, wait, people actually want me to come take their pictures. So I kind of invested more money, more time, more effort into my photography, into the work I was doing. And that's kind of where it is now.
I like the perspective in your shots. Like they're pretty interesting to look at, especially like with the contrast elements. I don't know, it kind
Thank
of
you.
stands out to me when I saw your photos. They didn't look like stereotypical band shots, like if that makes
Yeah.
sense.
And the, any art market is super saturated. You always have a lot of artists. Same with bands. There's so many bands. There's so many photographers out there. You got to try and find something to make yourself slightly different. You can't just copy someone else's work. You can't make it all look the same because you're never going to get anywhere. No one's going to want to hire you when they can find someone else doing the exact same photos for a little bit less.
Mm-hmm.
So you got to find a way to stand out. Find something you like and build from there. Same thing with music. Same thing with any art. You got to stand out, right?
Mm-hmm. Sometimes I feel like it's so difficult when there's so many different platforms, and just I feel like sometimes the market's oversaturated, but if you can find a way to make it your own, people will obviously like flock to it. It's pretty interesting.
It is, and you're right. There's so many platforms, especially for photography, whether, your basic ones with Instagram and Twitter, and then you can get into more like specific photography ones that are out there. And I'm sure those are great for, building your market. But as a band photographer, the only people that really want to see your pictures are fans of that band. I'm sure other photographers would love to see it as well, but they're not going to go check out the band. They're not going to support the band, which is what at the end pays you, right? So you need to be able to find those fans and reach out to them.
That makes sense. I actually never thought of it before. I think that's an interesting juxtaposition between the different ways how this kind of comes together.
Yeah, I didn't really notice it until last year when I started selling prints. And I have obviously a lot of photographer friends in the area here who are selling prints. And I'm like, why you're selling so well? And like, I'm doing okay, but like, I see your numbers compared to mine. Like, what's the difference? They're like, oh, we put it in the fan groups on Facebook, the Defend Pop Punk, the Pop Punk Kids, stuff like that, where fans of these bands are looking at it. I'm like, oh, that makes so much sense, because I'm trying to sell to other photographers, and other photographers don't really want to buy other pictures. So it was just, it made sense when they said that. I'm like, I never thought of it that way. I've kind of developed this weird perspective with Rival Town. I've been with them now for 4 going on 5 years, I believe. I know what they want to see in the pictures, what they don't want to see. I know who likes pictures of them singing, who doesn't like pictures of them singing. Some of them don't like pictures where the mouth is open in it, or, they only want a certain angle of them. And now going into bigger shows and other bands, I've kind of taken that with me without realizing it. I'm just doing it out of habit. And it's led to, like you said, the cool perspectives and angles that are in my pictures, because, when there's a keyboard player that I'm standing right beside, you can only take so many pictures of him before they start looking boring. So you got to find different angles. And I've taken that to all my shows now. Like I said, without realizing it, it's just habit of looking for different angles instead of just, the straight-on picture of a singer.
Yeah, I definitely think the angles bring more personality to the picture, because they weren't like action shots or stills. They were kind of like this pretty nice blend of like you're stuck in the moment, but at the same time, like, oh, it's also just a really nice photo.
Well, thank you.
So I have a question for you that we're asked at our freshman orientation that we've kind of made tradition to ask in our interviews. If you can be any utensil in the kitchen, what would you be and why?
Ooh, utensil in the kitchen.
Yes.
I want to say like a spatula, but I don't know why.
It's cute.
I feel like, I don't know, my day job, I'm a cook in the kitchen. I work at a steakhouse, so I'm used to flipping things, I guess. I don't know, that was the first thing that came to my head, so I'm going to go with the spatula there.
What's your favorite thing that you like to cook?
Pastas mainly, different types of pastas, seeing what I can put in them, different sauces I can make them in, that sort of thing.
If you could currently, if this wasn't happening in the world, if you could go any place, where would you go and why?
So actually, funny you asked that question. I was supposed to tour Japan at the beginning of April.
Oh, wow.
And obviously that got canceled. So that has been my number one place. Japan and Thailand have flipped back and forth for me for a long time. Just because of the street photography you can get in outside of band photos. The nightlife in Japan, obviously in Tokyo, is huge. The colors, amazing photography. And then Thailand's the same sort of thing, except the complete opposite. It's old. It's not really, worn down, but, you got those ancient buildings there. You got a lot of cool, interesting street photography options around you, which we don't really have here. I mean, we do, but you see it every day and it's not the same. So those two have definitely been at the top of my list. And sadly, Japan had to be canceled, obviously, with everything going on right now. We're going in the middle of cherry blossom season, so all the trees would have been pink, and it would have been beautiful pictures, and I was really looking forward to that. But obviously, you got to take your safety
Yeah.
first over everything. So,
Do you prefer portrait shots or like I guess ones without people? I'm not quite sure what they would be called.
like landscape sort of thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
I like doing like the band shots where I
Mhm.
don't have to tell people how to stand. I feel like I'm super awkward when I'm standing there like, okay, tilt your head to the left, put your arm here. I don't feel comfortable telling people how to stand because it's your picture, it's how you want to look in it.
Mhm.
Um, so even when I'm doing band promos and they're not sure when I'm doing like band photos and I have to tell them how to stand or where to stand, it's not necessarily what they end up wanting the band to look like
Mhm.
because now it's me telling them how they should stand, how they should look in that picture when it's your band. I don't necessarily listen to your band or know what you sound like. So why should I, be telling you how to pose, that sort of thing. So when I do get to do nature shots like that, street photography, it's great because I don't have to tell anyone how to stand. I can't ask a mountain to move for me. It's just there. It's beautiful as it is. That's how it's supposed to be seen, if that makes any sense.
No, I definitely understand and agree. When you're editing photos, what do you look for in it? Like, I know personally, like, I like more contrast in a photo. Or...
Um, it depends what the picture is of.
Mhm.
When we were down in Brooklyn, New York City area, I took a lot of street photos of the band just walking around, and I don't know why I tended to white those ones out. Like I brought the highlights up a lot, I brought the whites up a lot, so you can still make them out, but everything else was kind of white. Um, but live shots, I want to bring out the color that's on stage. A lot of time when I'm on tour with rival town or a smaller band, I'm stuck using a flash in a bar in a little room. I don't have the big stage lights that I have for some of the bigger shows. So I'm trying to find any color I can pull out, to make it look more alive. It's not just one white flash looking photo.
Mhm.
And it's difficult because you are using flash, like you're stuck trying to find these colors. Rival Town, luckily for me, has lights behind them and on their cabs as well that change colors. Their drum set even lights up, so I am able to pull some of those colors out, which is great. But that's not always the case. So, like I said, it depends on what's in the picture. If I can find colors to pull out, make those pop more, I'll do that. Try and match the contrast with it, bring the highlights up a little bit, but again, it all depends on what's actually in the picture and what I have to work with.
That's a really good answer. I just like seeing how people see things. It's,
Yeah,
yeah. I took a digital photography class my sophomore year, so I know like the bare minimum, but we had to take our own pictures before we edited them. And
yeah,
you kind of learn a lot about a person based on what pictures they take.
yeah. And everyone likes different pictures.
Hmm.
I find when I send the band, the 25, 30 pictures from the night, none of them will post my favorite picture, or maybe one of them will. And I'm like, oh, I thought this one was the best one. And they're like, no, I like this one more. I like this one more. I'm like, oh, it's weird that y'all like different pictures.
Hmm. So, what do you do when you're not photographing and working? Like hobbies?
Um, right now, sit at home on my couch and do nothing because we can't go anywhere. Which kind of sucks because the gas is super cheap, and I would love to, drive around a little bit, go probably west somewhere in Canada, see the Rockies or something, but can't do that. For the most part, I like being outdoors. I like going on hikes. I fish a lot when I can, obviously. It's difficult when I'm on tour, just fine. Um, not a whole lot else. I'll play hockey every once in a while, but I still play instruments when I can as well. Um, just stuff to fill the time. I miss playing music. It's nice the photography keeps me at shows and keeps me seeing all these bands, but you miss being on stage. So being able to play in my basement still is nice every once in a while.
What instrument slash instruments do you play?
So drums and guitar mainly, and then a little bit of piano as well.
I was just curious. I used to play the trumpet way back in the day. Not really. It was like
I, I,
3 years ago.
I mean, In high school, I took a music class where I played like trumpet, clarinet, saxophone, but like I can't remember how to play all that. I wish I did, but
Yeah, I think I took something similar where it was like you learn the scales and maybe like hot cross buttons on every single instrument.
exactly.
Yeah.
But I can't remember how to play that, nor do I have the money for any of those instruments. Just they're all very expensive.
Yes.
I love saxophone. I love songs with saxophone in it. Actually, the new Silverstein album had the song with saxophone in it, which is amazing. So I was looking at getting back into playing sax and looking at buying one, and like a decent cheap saxophone is like $9,000. And I'm like, oh, so that's just not happening. Okay.
School of Rock was filmed at my school, and I'm always like, well, the music scene isn't here, and it's kind of sad because like it's such an iconic movie that inspired so many people. And yet,
Yeah.
here we are.
Yeah, I think I watched that movie every Friday in music class for all 4 years of high school.
Oh my god, I love it. I never realized how like impactful it was until I started talking to people. It's just
Oh
kind of
yeah.
like,
Every musician I know can probably quote most of that movie to you.
oh my god. I feel like the main building from the movie, like where he like Jack Black's character like drives the car up, and you see that like iconic entrance. That's our classroom building. So after a while, it kind of
That's
just became
awesome.
this is where I have class, and you forget.
Yeah,
But
that's really cool though.
yeah, it's kind of nice. And you're from Canada, correct? I just wanted
Yeah.
to. Okay, cool. Can you describe what it's like there for me? I've never been.
It it's basically the exact same
Okay.
as where you are. Um, it's funny. We did our first U.S. tour a couple years ago, and we're just over the border in Buffalo, New York,
Hmm.
and we're at an Olive Garden, and we went to pay, and the server's like, "Oh, you guys are from Canada?" We're like, "Yeah." We're like, "Oh, what's it like there?" We're like, "We can almost see our house over the border. Like, it's right there. You see that big bridge? We live right by it." He goes, "Yeah, what's it like?" We're like, "What do you mean? It's literally like right here." There's not a whole lot of difference. When you get up into like northern Canada, there is. Um, it's your small towns, your country people. Um, your all your stereotypes about Canada are in those small towns. But Hamilton and Toronto are the same as any big city in the States I've ever been to. We are a little bit nicer here, and there's a lot of Tim Hortons, so we got coffee on every corner, which is nice. But besides that, it's basically the same. It snows just as much here as it does for you, I'm sure. This year, not so much, but we don't ride our mooses to work, which is sad because that would actually be pretty cool. Yeah, not a whole lot different.
Yeah, I always curious because like okay, I'm from Staten Island, and there's a lot of trees here. Like there's a lot of parks. It's like a city without being a city. There's a lot of
Yeah.
people, and then like you go to Manhattan and it's just tall buildings.
Yeah, so Toronto is more or less like Manhattan,
Okay.
obviously not to that scale. There are parks and stuff in Toronto, whereas Manhattan has one big ass park. Um, Hamilton's probably more like Staten Island. It's a city,
Hmm.
but there's parks. There's trees, there's forests, there's stuff like that. So it's not just tall buildings and concrete everywhere. I've been through quite a bit of the states now, and some of the things you see are fantastic. Other things are, flat farm fields for the next 8.5 hours. But you gotta drive through that to get to somewhere. Once you pass Pittsburgh area, getting into like the more central states, Kentucky, Tennessee, stuff like that, it's really flat. It's a lot of farm fields. It's a lot of, small little hills, stuff like that. There's not a whole lot of cities where I'm sure driving up and down the East Coast, there's cities everywhere.
Hmm.
It's same thing up here in Southern Ontario. It's just cities, 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 cities. And as soon as you go west a little bit into like Manitoba, Alberta, Saskatchewan out there, it's just farm fields, prairie fields of nothing. And it's the same in the central states. It's a lot of open fields, nothing really to look at for a couple hours while you drive. And then West Coast, I've never been, but I'm assuming there's a lot of cities everywhere.
What's your favorite state that you've been to?
I really enjoyed Tennessee when I was down there. That was quite a few years ago now, but really enjoyed the scenery driving through Kentucky as well, getting down to Tennessee. Really pretty state to drive through. Nashville was a lot of fun to be in. Just a really nice city overall. A lot of things to do, fun stuff like that. I'm not a big city person, weirdly enough, living in a bigger city right beside Toronto and always in big cities on tour. I don't like big crowds of people. So Nashville was kind of like a nice in between, like it wasn't overly packed. And then once you're outside of the city, you're in kind of soft mountains, hilly areas, a lot of good photography, places like that. You have Mississippi running through there as well. So it's just a really nice place to be through.
What's your favorite venue that you've taken photos in?
In Albany, New York, there is a venue inside one of the shopping malls. It's called Jupiter Hall. That was probably my favorite venue. Just the way the stage was set up was really pretty stage, nice lighting. Definitely shoot there again if I could.
We have a question that we've been asking everyone we've interviewed that our PR director Grace came up with. And I'm curious to know what your opinion of this question would be.
Okay.
What is your opinion of releasing an artist's unreleased music after they've passed away? Should it be released or should it not?
I tend to go back and forth on this. Growing up, I was a huge Prince fan, so I'm kind of hoping that they're going to release more Prince music. But at the same time, if they didn't want it to be released and they didn't do it while they were alive, I don't think it should be. So I kind of fight with myself on that all the time. I don't know how artist wills work out and, you know, with the recordings and stuff like that, because obviously you record way more songs than you ever put out. I'm going to say, yeah, this should be released if the family of that artist is okay with it. If the family wants to put this music out there, you know, obviously fans loved whoever that artist was, whether it's a full band or solo artist. They had fans out there that supported them and would obviously love to hear new music, even though they've passed away. So yeah, I think it should be released if the family's okay with it.
I know it's such a tough question. There's so many different moving parts to it because, like, as a fan, you always want to hear more music, but with the artist, if they're happy, yeah. And then it's like, was it unfinished? Because I hate when they keep releasing these unfinished like demo tracks.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
And like, again, I just listen to music. I just kind of exist in this realm. So
yeah, that's fair.
Yeah, it's pretty interesting to see how different people approach this question.
Yeah.
Okay, my next question for you is we actually have some Spitfire questions that we've been asking everyone. Okay. So bear with me. Okay. Just say the first thing that pops into your head. It doesn't have to be anything like elaborate.
Sure.
Okay. Favorite color?
Blue.
Favorite movie?
Lord of the Rings.
Nice. Favorite book?
Harry Potter.
I really like your answers. Sorry. Favorite restaurant?
I don't want to say the one I work at. Feel like I have to. Anything with good burgers. I'm always down for a good burger.
Okay, you're going on a road trip. 3 songs that must be in your playlist.
Ooh. 2112 by Rush, because that feels like half an hour, and it's just a good song. Self-Defeated by Light Pacific, and Lottery by Romancer.
Favorite album in your personal collection?
Oh, geez, my personal collection is huge. I have one of the original pressings from 1975 of Rush's self-titled album on vinyl, and that's probably my favorite.
Oh my god. That's amazing.
Yeah.
And then, what is your opinion of Spotify?
I like how easy it is to find new music, to find bands you're looking for to listen to music. I don't agree with how little they're paying people. Obviously I have music on Spotify. I know how little you actually make. I see how little these bands are making for the amount of times people are listening to them. So Spotify's really raking in a lot of money, and I know that. I like the concept of Spotify. I feel like they need to pay the artist a little bit more fairly than what they are.
I agree. I'm just gonna circle back. This is not a Spitfire question, but I just want to circle back to this. You said you had Rush's the vinyl.
Yeah,
Do you collect vinyl?
I do.
Oh, amazing. Besides that album, if you had to pick two that were like your most prized, what would you say they were?
I have Let's Go Crazy, the Prince album, and then I have a tricolor Bob Marley Greatest Hits, and those are probably my two favorites.
My next question for you is, what are you currently listening to?
A lot heavier pop punk than I used to. When I first got into pop punk, there was a lot of State Champs kind of poppy stuff. Although the Finer Things wasn't a poppy album, but that's sort of lighter, the side of the pop punk scale. Now I'm into a lot of like Beartooth, A Day to Remember, Ice Nine Kills, a lot of heavier stuff like that. A lot of local bands I find are on my playlist quite a bit. There was a band in Hamilton I'm friends with, one of the guys who was in it, called Downstream. They broke up a few years ago, and he's now one of the guitar players and singers in Rarity. Not sure if you know who they are.
I've heard of them.
But a lot of Downstream. They're, I don't know how to explain what they sound like, kind of grungy, emo rock. So a lot of them. Romancer's coming out of the city about 45 minutes away from me, called Kitchener-Waterloo. Listening to them a lot lately. They're going to blow up soon as well. Obviously, listening to Rival Town. I owe them a lot for always taking me on tour. So anytime I can stream them and, give them a shout out and support them in any way, I do my best. So listen to a lot of them. Like Pacific from Toronto, Seaway from Toronto area as well. A lot of smaller local bands you've probably never heard of, the Downcast, Arcane Ghost, stuff like that. A lot of local bands definitely pop up on my playlist. Yeah, so Rival Towns, they've been doing this for a while. Bryce, their guitar player, was in a band out east called Rocket Ship, which they actually did fairly well for a while. So they're a little bit older now, and I'm sure if you were to ask them these questions, they'd probably have a little bit different answers than I do. It's weird a lot of the times when bands hit me up, they're younger than me, or around my age. So when I tour with the guys in Rival Town, it's a completely different vibe. We're in bed basically when the show ends, or as soon as we can be. We got a pizza and we got a movie on or something. There's not a whole lot of like drinking and partying like with the younger bands. When I am on the road with a younger band, it's weird to me that it's 1:32 in the morning and we're out drinking instead of lying in bed eating Domino's watching Die Hard.
I feel like personally I prefer sitting in bed.
Yo, so do I, especially because I have to edit all the pictures from that night's show, and I don't want to be drinking all night and then have to go edit pictures till 6 in the morning.
Oh, no.
I'll do it every once in a while. It's fun to go out and drink and have a good time and enjoy being on the road when you can.
Do you have, like, a van playlist that you listen to, or, like, something that keeps you occupied while traveling?
It tends to change. It'll go from like all stand-up comedy to music to we'll watch a movie or something. A lot of the guys bring like their Nintendo Switch or their Game Boys or something just to do something on the road. I tend to get car sick if I look at something for too long, so kind of sucks. I can't edit the pictures while we're driving because, I do nothing for 8 hours in the van. So that would be a great time to do pictures, but unfortunately I can't. So yeah, they play video games or we'll put music on. Like I said, a lot of stand-up comedy comes on. Just something, we haven't heard before, which is nice.
Do you mind if I ask what you use to edit your photos?
For the most part, I do all the basic stuff in Lightroom.
Mhm.
If I do need to, edit out a mic stand or someone's hand kind of blurred the corner or something, I'll throw it in Photoshop and do any touch-ups there. But for the most part, just Lightroom. Lightroom is great for all your basic edits, quick edits to photos. I can save all the presets. So if I want all the pictures on one tour to look, somewhat the same, it makes it a lot easier than Photoshop ever could.
That's so nice. Okay, I have one more question for you, and I hope things get better because of this question. What are your goals for the decade of 2020?
Um, I'd love to tour outside of North America. That's always been one of my goals. Don't really care where. Obviously, like I said, Japan was looking really good until all this happened. But I've done quite a bit in North America now. I do want to start doing more West Coast in North America. Like I said, I've never actually made it out to California, so I'd love to make it there one day. But definitely, hopefully by the end of this decade, I can, or this year even, hopefully something outside of North America would be really cool to do.
Amazing. I really appreciate you talking with me. I had a great time. This is like really fun. So thanks.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. Definitely keep in touch, and
Thanks. Okay, I hope you have a great day.
you too. Take care.
Bye.